The Tea Party basically running the Republican Party. The Speaker of the House, John Boehner, who Bob Ney, in his book Sideswiped, lays out actual crimes that John Boehner committed, along with the names of actual witnesses, should anybody want to convene a grand jury. And Bob points out that John is drunk every single night. And, this is the guy running our country who refused to bring continuing our government to a vote last night. Had he brought it to a vote, his own Republicans, at least 100 of them, probably over 170 of them, would have voted along with all the Democrats to say, no, don't shut down the World War II memorial. Keep the government going. I mean, it's just amazing what's going on here. And in the midst of this, we've got a whole bunch of nuclear power plants in the United States that are identical to the ones at Fukushima, and some that are even worse and even older. Eric Schlosser is with us, an investigative journalist, author of Command and Control. Previously, he wrote Fast Food Nation, Reefer Madness, Chew on This. It is a great pleasure to have you with us, Eric. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Amazon.com says your hair-raising new book about actual and potential accidents of nuclear weapons, Command and Control, sharpens the dialogue. Nuclear, is this about principally weaponry or nuclear power?
It's about nuclear weapons.
Okay.
So it really looks at the effort since the dawn of the atomic era to make sure these things don't explode by accident, they can't be stolen, they can't be used by unauthorized personnel, but they're connected to nuclear reactors, and that the basic problem we have is that as human beings, we're better at inventing complex technologies than we are at controlling them. And we've had some major nuclear reactor meltdowns. We haven't had a nuclear weapon detonate on American soil yet, one of our own, but we've come close. And there just may be some machines that we're just not capable of fully controlling.
Or we shouldn't try to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, what is it that we need to know about the nuclear weapon? First of all, how many nuclear weapons do we have? What
we've got a lot less than we used to. In the early 60s, we had about 32,000.
Whoa.
Right now, we've got maybe 1,600 ready to be used at a moment's notice, and a few thousand more in storage. But the book really looks at a hidden history of our nuclear weapons enterprise and about how close we came on a number of occasions to having our own weapons go off. The heart of the book is a narrative of a nuclear weapons accident in Damascus, Arkansas in 1980. And I give sort of a minute-by-minute account of what happened there and how close we came to have the state of Arkansas just incinerated with a lot of lethal radioactive fallout going up the eastern seaboard.
So I'm familiar with the plane dropping the two nukes during the Kennedy administration over in, I think it was South Carolina or North Carolina.
It was North Carolina, yeah.
And had one of the fail-safe switches not failed to work. Actually, the only reason that bomb didn't go off is because it failed. It was supposed to go off.
Yeah.
North Carolina would have been taken out. I didn't know about Arkansas. Tell me what happened.
I will. And, with the North Carolina bomb, even if that switch had worked perfectly, as the bomber was breaking up, it was a bomber breaking up in midair, if there had been some wires crossing, which happens when a big plane is breaking up, it could have armed the bomb and it could have detonated. In Damascus, Arkansas, 33 years ago, a guy was doing routine maintenance on a Titan II missile, the biggest intercontinental ballistic missile we ever built, and it had the most powerful warhead we ever put on a missile. And he was on this steel work platform near the top of the missile, and he dropped a socket off of his wrench. It bounced on the steel platform. He tried to grab it. It fell between this narrow space between the steel platform and the missile, fell about 70 feet, bounced, hit the missile, pierced a hole in its skin, and suddenly highly toxic, highly explosive rocket fuel was filling the silo. And the Air Force had no idea what to do. Nothing like this had ever happened before. And again, the most powerful nuclear warhead we ever put on a missile was on top of it. And so the story I tell is how some very brave young airmen, 19, 20, 21-year-old guys, risked their lives to try to prevent this missile from exploding and try to prevent this warhead from going off. I mean, this one warhead was 3 times more powerful than all the bombs dropped by all the militaries in the Second World War, including both atomic bombs.
Wow. So it literally would have taken out Arkansas.
It would have. And, Bill Clinton wasn't that far away. He was governor of the state at the time. Vice President Mondale was there that day for a meeting in Hot Springs. Chelsea was a 1-year-old, and it's amazing.
Did any of them know of this at the time?
History would have been changed, and just by these little weird events, like somebody drops a tool, and catastrophe really could have followed.
Did Governor Clinton, and then Vice President Mondale, were they informed that they had come within moments of being vaporized?
One of the reasons we don't know about this accident, and one of the reasons most people have never heard about it, is the government didn't tell the truth about it at the time. Clinton knew the accident was unfolding, but the Air Force was adamant that there was no chance that this warhead could detonate and set off a firestorm. And one of the things I learned in my research is that's not true. And so there's another narrative in my book, which is about the engineers and scientists at our weapons labs who realized in the late 1960s that many of our nuclear weapons were prone to accidental detonation, and their effort to put in new safety mechanisms. And that warhead on that missile in Arkansas just 3 years earlier had been cited by the Sandia National Laboratory, one of our weapons labs, as being a warhead with inadequate safety devices that might detonate in an accident. So the government didn't tell the truth, not only about that accident, but about many others, and through the Freedom of Information Act, through interviews with people who were there, through interviews with some of our leading weapons designers from Los Alamos and Livermore and Sandia, I put together this story.
Wow. We're talking with Eric Schlosser. His new book is called Command and Control, about the danger of our nuclear weapons. That, there are some folks, I'm sure, who would say, well, that was then and this is now. Back in 1980, a computer filled a room, and now you've got that much computing power. I mean, you've got more computing power in an iPhone than the entire, moon mission. We got this thing under control. What do you say to that?
I wish that were the case. What computer technology has added is a whole new layer of complexity. And this sounds like the plot of a bad Hollywood film, but the Defense Science Board, which advises the Department of Defense, issued a report in January saying that our nuclear command and control system and its vulnerability to being hacked has never been fully assessed. And a few years ago, the Air Force began to worry about this when 50 Minuteman missiles suddenly went offline at F.E. Warren Air Force Base. And what that means is, for about an hour, their underground launch control centers could not communicate with 50 intercontinental ballistic missiles. And the Air Force denied at the time that the system had been hacked. The problem was traced back to a computer chip that was improperly installed in a processor. But privately, high-level Air Force officials became concerned about the possibility of someone hacking into our nuclear command and control system. And again, the odds of this are low, but the consequences would be unimaginably high. And the most likely way it would happen would be through some sort of insider, like a Snowden. And Snowden was able to get extraordinary information from the most top-secret intelligence agency that we have, despite being a low-level guy. And we have private contractors working on our nuclear command and control system.
Amazing. Eric Schlosser, check out his book, Command and Control. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks for having me.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
That is truly chilling stuff. Command and Control is the book. We'll be right back.